It's Wednesday and it's time for another Business Analysis Live. It's so great to have you here with us. I'm Susan Moore. I'm the Community Engagement Manager at the International Institute of Business Analysis. You know, when we talk about business analysis and something we call the core competency model, if you're not familiar with it, check it out on our website, IIBA.org. We often talk about how context matters to the work that we do. One of the ways that context impacts our work is through maybe the domain that we're in, because different domains, industries, areas, business types can impact not just the what we do as business analysis professionals, but the how and the why we do it. And so I've got a guest who's going to talk about an example of how a particular area or domain can impact business analysis, and that is business analysis for healthcare projects. Maybe you work in healthcare, maybe you've been interested in working in healthcare. Well, we've got Irina Sizikova, here she is, to talk about that today. Hey, Irina, how are you?
Hi, Susan. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. How's it going?
It's great. You know what I find amazing about our community is how international we are. And today we've got a local guest. You're right here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area with me. You're just north. So business analysis is happening right in our backyard. But first, let's will you introduce yourself and let people know a little bit about you and what it is that you do in healthcare?
Absolutely. So, to start with, I'm partially local. I was born and raised in Europe and have experience of living and working on two continents, basically. So, my name is Irina, and I have 18 years experience in healthcare. I'm employed by healthcare manufacturer, and I'm a chapter lead of business analysis and documentation. What I'm doing at work, I'm shaping a role of business analyst in a highly regulated environment. I am an author of scientific publications. I'm a presenter. I'm a podcast guest. And I do love my job, and I love sharing my experience with others. I'm active in IIBA community. I'm seeking for CBAB certification. I'm holding PMP, PSPO2, and willing to share and network with others in the industry. In my private life, I'm a pilot, and I'm mom of a wonderful teenager.
So, in addition to all of the professional things that you're doing, you are also a mom, a pilot. I don't even know how you find time to do all this. This is pretty amazing. But I think that just speaks to how engaged you are. And I want to just do a quick shout out because you are really these days giving a lot back to the business analysis community. So I know that you are doing a talk coming up with the Palmetto and DC chapters. You're going to be talking about this topic, business analysis in healthcare, right?
Correct. At this meet, I have several presentations scheduled internationally, and Palmetto chapter together with DC is one of them. It's coming up end of August, and I will talk about regulatory compliance for healthcare projects in the US. So I have a couple of more upcoming sessions in Australia, in Ireland, in Canada, and there I will talk about the local regulations. So our manufacturer of products for dentistry, we release on 120 countries our products. And this makes me really motivated to dig deeper and learn about local regulations, because you have to comply and you have to be compliant and meet these regulations and established quality management system.
Yeah, this is healthcare is really interesting because there are so many different kinds of stakeholders and constraints and people, regulatory agencies that you have to connect with. Can you give us an example? So, on a given project that you might be working on, can you give us a sense of who those stakeholders might be?
Yeah, absolutely. So besides standard project or solution manager who provide product requirements, we have a lot of stakeholders around. They are regulatory affairs manager, they are quality manager, a risk manager, and all of them, they help us to be compliant. So having a quality management system at the center, at the core, we make our product safe for a patient and effective. It's all about safety and effectiveness. That's why they are very important stakeholders from regulation and from business and from quality. And it makes our work, by the way, very interesting because you have a lot of connections and you have a lot of support in your work and you learn a lot of cross-functional topics in order to be able to do a job. So quite exciting, and people learn a lot just working as a business analyst in healthcare.
Yeah, it feels like because you're not just dealing with customers and product managers as your primary stakeholders, you're dealing with a lot of different folks who probably are not even in your organization. So that can feel kind of daunting, having so many. What are some of the ways that business analysis professionals learn about these other kinds of stakeholders that impact their work?
So first of all, having some background in regulations really helps to understand the whole context of what we are doing. And there are pretty much standard regulatory requirements, pretty much standard quality requirements, IT security requirements, and risk management established process. And as soon as you learn the basics, how it works, and as soon as you start digging deeper, you are doing a better job. We all care about risks. We all care about FDA compliance. We all care about HIPAA. It's about patient data, and it's very related to IT security compliance. We all want to protect our data at rest and at transit. And this all result in new business and then the further functional decomposition into solution requirements.
So this is amazing. So, and I just want to kind of recap for our audience just some of the kinds of stakeholders and considerations that you have in healthcare. So you mentioned data privacy, and you also, and you mentioned cybersecurity. So I'm just kind of making some notes here because this is going to be a long list, I think. You also mentioned product safety. Which is maybe not something that a lot of other industries might have. But product safety, I'm sure we've got a regulatory agency here in the United States for that. You said you work in 120 countries. You probably have similar agencies in those countries that you
In every
also have to
country.
know who they are and know what their regulations are. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Right. So medical device manufacturers, they should pass audits and regular audits. What do we do at these audits? We have to be compliant with some ISO standards and some regulations. And for example, for US, this is very defined list of what we need to comply with. It first ISO 13485. It's established quality management system. So what does it mean? We have documented process and procedures. We have a risk management process in place. We have design controls established in place. It means we have very well defined design input and design output and all traceability, how we trace design input to design output, as well as software verification and software validation, change control and configuration management, and as well as compliant handles. If you heard, it's CAPA and how we handle all the issues, as well as post-market surveillance. It means when the product is already out of the market, we also monitor if any issues come up, we have to register it, and we even have to report in case of serious issues and initiate recalls if it compromises patient safety. Another example of this I saw, it's a standard for lifecycle management for medical software. It's 62300. It also defines architectural guidance, how we manage our requirements, how we do, again, verification and validation, and it enforces a structured risk-based approach in the software development. So it's very connected to each other. And if we follow all these standards, in the audit, we prove that we are compliant. And then when we make pre-market submission to the FDA, choosing one of pre-market paths, so we prove that independent body proved that we are compliant with all the standards. So it simplifies a lot, and I think it's one of the requirement of the FDA. So always being controlled. So, and we always prove that we are compliant. So besides having a very good product, so our products are great, but without compliance, you will not be able to release on the market.
Right. So it doesn't matter if they passed your test. You actually have these other kinds of agencies that you have to prove to them that it also meets their requirements. So there are layers of stakeholders. There are layers of requirements that you have to do, validation that you have to do. You mentioned audits. I'm getting a sense for a day in the life of a business analyst who might work in this space. And I am sure, so you started out as a new business analysis professional in this healthcare space. What how did you how did you learn about all of this so that you could do what you're doing today, which is effectively helping your team, but also helping new professionals to learn what you do?
So it took me 18 years to get here.
Okay, but for those of you out there interested, don't get discouraged.
I had a very exciting and inspiring start at this organization. One of my college friends just invited me to their company, to their office, just to have a tour, just to look how they work. And he was talking about, we are making product for dental surgeons. Oh, dental surgeons. Not really exciting for me. But team was so much motivated to tell what they do and how they are passionate about what they do. So in 2 weeks, I just started working there as a junior business analyst. So I had mechanical engineering background, nothing even close to IT and to business analysis. But I was a quick learner, and they needed someone. I stayed in Europe at the time, and this is an international company, and they needed something who speaks English and can easily reach out to implant manufacturers. It's over 100 worldwide, collect their data and insert in the database. So with full backend support of software developers. And this is how I started, and it was very inspiring start like going to conferences, because how I get this data from the manufacturers, I have to go to conference, I have to reach out to people and to basically collect all this data. So it was not typical work what analysts do, but I started so like public relations to do my job. So, and then I thought, okay, I want to grow somewhere and I need some basic understanding what is exactly a business analysis and step by step. So now I know by heart BABOK. I know a lot of people in our industry, a lot of connections. And then I see that having a good knowledge of business analysis is not even enough to be a good domain expert. And then if you see related fields around, you have regulatory compliance, you have quality managers, and you start learning, okay, we are compliant with the standard. What does it mean? What is the compliance criteria? And you learn about each criteria. You read more articles. You read it takes a lot of time to read regulations, to understand and to make compliance, and especially to write process, release the process within the organization. It's 15,000 people. And then scale it across over 400 Scrum teams and explain people why we do it. So it's very difficult. Even in our organization, people keep asking, why do we need it? We have good products. We do. Our products are really great, but we do need to be compliant. And we do have to prove it if anyone asks. We prove it every single day. and step by step. And then when we hire people, so I really love when people are certified. That means their theoretical background is proven. But some people have really 10 years of experience. Okay, they don't have certification, but 10 years of experience, say, by itself, and it also works. But if people have a theoretical knowledge, then it's easier to add more domain knowledge because it's a lot is going on around, and you have a lot of stakeholder around, and your normal days, it's half a day of meetings with different stakeholders, including your agile team. And then you do your work. You collect all input, you process feedback, and you then respond, initiate a change or respond to changes.
This is a very busy day in the life.
A lot of communication. So business analysts should be ready. You are
Yeah.
in the center of the team and you communicate a lot. You are connecting the dots because regulatory people speak their own language. So they use a lot of terminology.
Yeah.
And the development team, they don't understand every single word. And you are kind of a bridge between regulatory and development. Development people, also developers, speak their own IT slang. And you translate, you are a bridge between regulatory quality, risk, and developers. And you make a common language for all of them so that they all understand, not only they communicate something, that information is understood. So this is what really BABOK says. Make sure information is understood.
That's right. That's right. And you have to know how to communicate to each of those audiences in order to develop that understanding. You know, I to me, so my husband worked in a medical device startup for a while. And for him it was really rewarding on a very human level, because you are in healthcare or medical devices or whatever it is that you're putting together in this space, you are really impacting lives. And so getting it right really matters. And so for those out in the audience who are thinking, oh my gosh, it took her 18 years. It wasn't like 18 years and now you're the expert, but you have been able to surround yourself during that time with people that were helping you to learn. Also, you were just interested in different areas. And so as you developed an interest in that area, you dove into it so that you could understand it better. And I mean, it sounds to me like that is really what a business analysis professional in this space needs to have. You need to not just be curious, but you really need to be tenacious with wanting to understand it, because you connect a lot of dots for so many different kinds of stakeholders.
And very critical, your mistake can cost someone health issues. So it's probably in our area, so our risk class is not that critical. It may not kill a person, but it may hurt significantly. And your responsibility, it's very important to realize all the responsibility you do a job. So I will give you one example for risk-based classification. There is jaw, upper and lower jaw, and we produced surgical guides which stops the drill when during the surgery when you want to have a dental implant. And you can paralyze your lower jaw if you drill deeper and hit the nerve. So, and surgical guides prevents the drill physically to this level. If a software makes a bad decision and drill hits the nerve, so it leads to severe consequences. And no one wants to be paralyzed. It should help, it should not hurt. And we give a lot of training to employees, so how much the mistake can cost to a patient. And it's again about patient safety.
Yeah, and that's
By the
mistakes
way,
really
in
matter.
case of any error, manufacturer need to report to federal governances and to report about these incidents. And even a license can be recalled for the product in case a case is repetitive. So that's very serious, and a lot of work is going on besides developing a product. So
when you and I talked many months ago, One of the things you said really interested me, that when you are working on a product, you are generally not the only kind of business analysis professional that might be working on this. Because as you've just helped us understand, there are lots of different kinds of parties and agencies and stakeholders. Maybe talk a little bit about the other kinds of business analysis professionals that you might work with on a project, and what are some of the things that they bring, the knowledge they bring into your projects.
So it's in healthcare, it's all about cross-functional collaboration. You are an expert in business analysis, but to get a content for your requirement, you reach out to different people, including customers, including end user, including your sponsor, who also have a vision how things should be done, to choose, for example, the right platform, which a partnership with which cloud provider should we do. So you collect a lot of data, and you should be able to process a lot of different kinds of data. So that's the main message. And if you're not familiar with the area, just be ready to ask the right questions. So making a good business analysis, it's an art of asking questions. So in order to explain it to something, you have to understand it by yourself first. So, and this is what I do in my practice. I try to dig deeper into the topic as much as I need to be able to explain it to your grandma, for example, right? If my son understands what I'm talking about, so my team will for sure understands it. So be a good in asking questions. Don't be shy. If you don't understand, don't be shy to ask more, to ask again, and to do this elicitation until the moment you are making sure you understand the topic and you are ready to be a speaker on that. So it's if you want to come to a podcast and speak about regulations, be sure you are an expert in the room. And learn as much as you can about this topic around, even if it's out of scope of BABOK at all, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a domain knowledge which enhance a lot what you do. And if you are growing and then you mentor, coach, and growing your personnel and hire business analysts, and it's a very typical question when they ask, what else should I do besides I read all BABOK? So it's very, very common questions. And then, then a good answer could be, are you familiar with any regulations? Are you familiar with data protection? How would you protect your data? Would you like that Facebook steal your data, and transfer somewhere, like, or LinkedIn sells your data to someone? So are you okay with that? So definitely not. And for healthcare, this is very well protected and regulated.
Boy, yeah, on a lot of different levels. I feel like you've just given us the secret, by the way, to how you have been able to become a speaker, an author, a podcast guest, is that you are, one, always asking questions. Because I think that's probably who you are, but because this particular domain requires it, because you are going to be producing something that could heal somebody, but it could just as easily hurt somebody. So you really have to lean into that curiosity and have no fear to ask questions. I often talk about our work as business analysis professionals. We're professional learners, and I think that's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I'm looking at these pictures of the airplanes behind you, and clearly you are a professional learner.
So just my personal rule, and do a little bit more than they expect from you at work. And if you are doing more, you're growing. If you are doing
Yeah.
just what they expected, it's just you do your job. It's okay. No one will complain that, but it's not a growth. And being
That's a great
curious,
piece of advice.
this is a good skill. And making connection and communication. Business analysts should have an excellent communication, to not be shy, to repeat, to reach out, to document, and to understand how to work with the result of your elicitation, how to communicate, how to manage your information. So this is BABOK is very helpful in that. It just gives you tasks one by one and in the right order what you should do. And and
You
there
know,
is a huge team behind you. You're not alone. You don't have, as a business analyst, to learn all regulations. We have 15,000 employees in the company and a very strong regulatory team, a very strong quality team and risk management team. So you always have experts who don't know the features of your software, but they know how to do risk assessment. They know how to do risk mitigation. They know how to trace risk to software requirement, to design, to test, and to test case. So, and all this, and tools, modern tools are really helpful for that. So there are multiple plugins for Jira, for example, which enhance your work with the risk manager and to make a very good tree of your requirements and design and a very good traceability. So traceability is very important. How you prove that your business need is translated into business requirements, then to stakeholder requirements, then decompose to solution requirements, and then to designs, test, and test case. So this is what we have huge tables and show all our from idea to test. So it's all traceable. So maybe other industries that does not require that, but we do and we prove it. So
yeah.
even if we use another interesting question. So are you guys living waterfall? We are not. We develop our software with agile frameworks. And there is a very good document, TIR. It's a technical information report who gives a guidance how to meet agile and with regulatory expectations. And we follow and implement it, and we follow this guideline and report to implement, to have this frequently cycles, like to have incremental software development and to keep at the same time with regulations.
So there's even a variation of agile for regulated industries. Yeah.
Yes. So how to adjust this agile framework in a heavily regulated industry?
Yeah.
This is possible. We have procedures in place. We have quality management system which clearly describes in detail how to do this step by step, at which point of time, which roles are involved and which tasks should be implemented. So this is my current role right now, to write these procedures and to scale them across organizations. Quite interesting. It's not a project, but it's a huge project which have value for the organization. So, and you should know well not only solution limitations, but again, what is stated in BABOK, organizational limitations. And you deal with both, and with external and with internal limitations to combine and to make the whole process work and compliant.
So one other thing that you just mentioned is documentation. In fact, it's in your title. For a lot of us out there, when we produce documentation for our projects, it's maybe only as good as whatever the change is that we're making. But for healthcare, documentation is essential, because that is very often what you are going to give regulators or auditors who are going to look at your product and see if they meet guidelines. Maybe talk a little bit about the importance of documentation skills.
Certainly. So this ending of my title, documentation, it's a separate role in the organization. We have separate business analyst and separate documentation engineer. What we mean with the documentation is preparing over 200 documents per release for 510K submission. It's one of submission, pre-market submission for our medical products. So if we decide to release every month, literally it means 200 documents needs to be either created or updated every month. And this is not easy. And we invest a lot in the automation and in the AI agents who will enhance the work of this person it's a dedicated role on a project, and to collect all requirement information, all design, all risk management, and generate all these documents which fully describe the product. And by the way, another interesting part, we have also a technical writer who makes instruction for use explaining how the product works. So this instruction no one never reads, but it's a law, and we are required to produce it and to explain every single feature, how to use the product. And inform user in case feature can be wrongly used or misused. We should show warnings, and it's also a regulation. we should also show a warning and explain it. Show a warning in the software, show a warning in the instruction, and then it's a responsibility of a doctor. If they don't read the instruction, if they don't look at the screen at or just blindly close the warning, so then it's their responsibilities, not the responsibilities of the manufacturer. But for example, if you don't do this, it's your responsibility that you did not inform. So you can protect in the code, you can protect by information the customer. So there are multiple ways how you can inform customers to warn about something.
Wow. And then you also just then identified some additional folks that you are having to work with as a business analyst on this project. The people that are producing that documentation, because that documentation is oftentimes it is absolutely required for the reasons that you stated. Well, listen, how about we maybe take a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
Let's see what the folks out there would like to know. Oh, Bryce says it's an interesting session so far. Thanks, Bryce. All right, let's see. I have got, I think I got a variety of just some statements here. So this LinkedIn user says traceability is applicable in all instances, regardless of sector. It's so important for audit and quality control. Now, I know that you've talked a little bit about, the content that you read in the BABOK guide. BABOK talks about requirements traceability, but beyond that, I bet you have other, regulatory agencies that require traceability. And is that different? Is that traceability different than what BABOK says?
Oh, that's exactly what BABOK asks us to do. When we have requirements, how will you prove that coverage, that all the requirements are covered with the designs? You have this coverage table and show, like in a table view, every requirement has one or several designs covering that. And how every requirement is covered by verification test or just test. And it's also added to the table. And how did we execute every test case and have results, and all results are passed, not failed. So, and this is automatically extracted from Jira, from these Jira plugins, and makes this a summary table. And this is what we show when we release a product version number 1.0. We have, okay, this is all requirements we implemented. This is all designs which cover the requirements. We created 100 tests, and we have test reports proving that this is working. In case of issues, we need to fix it, or there is a list of known issues when we justify why we need or want to keep the issues. So either it's low priority and not really meaningful, either we call it a gold plating. So it's a nice working product, and we of course can improve, make it even nicer, but we don't have a budget for that or time for that. So every single bug should be justified and it's signed off. So every document is signed off. There is a list of author, reviewer, and approver to approve every document. And at least if something goes wrong, and we do a research at root cause analysis, what went wrong, we go back to a documentation, find the right requirement, and find the right design, and test the steps, and verify every detailed steps to make a conclusion and to define the next steps, how to fix it and how to improve the process. So it on both sides. First, we fix the problem. So we make it safe for a patient, or we do a recall, and then we define improvements in the process, how to avoid it for future. It's a standard quality management process.
Yeah. And so it sounds like that traceability artifact, however that comes out, then becomes part of the documentation for whatever the model or version number of that thing is. Yeah. So traceability is important. All right. So I think Karthik has our next question. How does Irina translate those technical terms into more understandable terms? Do you use metaphors, or is there a template of the translation? What's the secret sauce for how you do that?
So you don't have to translate everything. What we start with, all our employees are being trained. So there are mandatory trainings. Everyone understands basic vocabulary and basic terminology. So everyone knows what FDA is, everyone knows what HIPAA is. So any additional, and every in our work instruction and in every procedure, we have a separate glossary. We have central glossary and a separate glossary. If you at the meeting and you hear anything you are not familiar with, you can refer to work instruction, you can refer to central glossary to look the definition. If it's missing, you just raise this up, because we do it centrally. And we, again, make explanation for every single term. So everyone understands what HIPAA is and what is 510K submissions, what is pre-market approval, what is de novo classification. So it's all pre-market passes, and in which cases on a high level understanding, because you join a team, and if you see any concerns which contradicts with the regulations, you should speak up. And how will you speak up if you don't understand what I tell you? It's if I speak Chinese to you. So we try to bring a general understanding, and we have learning sessions where we just explain simple things to people. So look, there are 3 paths, pre-market paths, and every path, what does it mean? You know, all our products, we do 510K submissions, but there are 2 other passes. If you, for example, develop AI tool and we have no predicate device on the market, we use de novo pass. De novo, it's a new technology when we prove clinical effectiveness, and then after approval, it will become a predicate, and the next release, it will be 510K, normal 510K, because we already have a predicate.
Yeah, what I hear you saying there is there are levels of translation, everything from glossaries and trainings to also individual understanding of what that is, to those experts that you might bring in if something is unknown. So there's because you are dealing with healthcare, which can impact humans, you have multiple layers of like backup methods to make sure that if one area fails, you've got some other check that can come in and ensure that it's caught, is kind of what I'm hearing you say when it comes to how you're conveying this information.
It's important to make sure we all speak same language. I will give you some examples. What is confusion like in terminology? When people say requirements verification, requirements validation, and then software verification and software validation, some people hear just verification and validation, but it's not the same. It's completely different vocabulary. And then when we have requirements architecture and software architecture, these are completely different fields, and we can't compare that. But people hear architecture, and then even for this, the last example, I avoid saying architecture for requirements. We say requirement structure. It's more understood. So it's a little bit tailored to not bring confusion every time, because when we have business analyst and architect at the meeting and you say architecture, both immediately jump in their chairs. What are we talking? We try to make some tailoring. So if you have requirement structure, business analyst understands it's their field. If we say software architecture, architecture is architecture. Difficult to argue.
And you know what? And that's so what I'm hearing you say is, even in addition to all of the language around what it is you're developing, there's just even organizational language that you have to use. I worked in an organization where if we said designs, we meant something very specific that had nothing to do with business analysis. And so we would have to, think of another word. That is common in a lot of organizations. I don't know why that is, but it is. So you also got to know
personal
that
experience on that. I try to stick to BABOK as much as we can, because it's easier to hire people, it's easier to interview people, because at least you refer to industry standards, to not invade a bicycle when we don't need it. So if some tailoring needs and we have multiple concerns about it, like with requirement structure versus architecture, so we do it. But we very much stick to the Scrum Guide, to BABOK. So we try to use common terminology, common understanding of all of that, so that if we bring a new person to a team or to organization and they know how in industry this these things work, it will be easy to go through onboarding and to start working. Yeah, nothing
Okay.
inventing what is not
Right.
necessary.
So,
Don't invent what is not necessary. Yeah, just use what exists. And people working for decades on writing this BABOK, for making all tasks for business analysis, on making all recommendations is great. It is really great. And we just, I promote it a lot and we use it. And what we do right now, we have summer educational sessions in the organization. We review.
oh, nice.
Do you know how many techniques business analysts have?
Well, they have 50 in
50,
BABOK.
exactly. And
Yeah.
we have a summer educational session to revise all 50 techniques. So we make presentations, examples, and share it. Sometimes product owner, another confusion between business analyst and product owner. On a smaller project, product owner combines both roles. And
Okay.
we do have it in the organization. And they do product owner tasks and business analysis tasks. And we share knowledge with them how to use these BA techniques in their job, if they cover both roles, how to use it. And it's wonderful summer sessions. And I truly enjoy how people are inspired and digging deeper and to find industry, like for example, for balanced scorecard, we found examples from Uber, from Tesla, how they do it. And just to show on successful organizations, that they also uses business analysis techniques and succeed with them.
I like how you guys are flexing that learning muscle by learning more about business analysis techniques. And I'm going to quote you, by the way, what you said earlier in our episode today. You talked about, as a business analysis professional in this space, you can always do a little bit more, learn a little bit more. So maybe you know about BABOK Guide, but what do you know about the ISO standards that impact your work, or the FDA if you're here in the US, the FDA regulations? You can always be learning something more, and just that act of learning helps you to build that muscle of learning, which is so essential to the work that we're doing. Um, let's see. Well, you want to take one more question? Let's take one more question. And here, you talked about prioritization a little bit. This LinkedIn user wants to know what the role is for you as a business analysis professional in this space, helping to prioritize where. And you also, when you were talking about traceability, you were talking about gold plating versus what's a critical feature and all that. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so prioritization in our project is really more pure work than business analyst. Business analyst is get into details, to know every single details about the feature, all dependencies, all limitations about the feature. So prioritizing the backlog, we don't do it, but we enhance product owners with all the details of breaking down, making data flow diagrams, to communicate it into a team, to find the gaps, to do gap analysis. This is very important because sometimes PO looks at from the high level at things. So they do more like a manager jobs to prioritize and to deliver on the market. But the quality of what we deliver, it heavily depends on an analyst. So how detailed you make your requirements, how detailed it will be covered by the design, how good the design is, and the design is usable representation of a solution. So, and how easily it can be implemented. So analysts should be very attentive to details, first of all, and to make sure these details are understood by the team, especially by test manager who covers functionality with testing, and by software developer who implements the feature. And when we have review meetings, just make sure that your requirements is such a high quality that implemented exactly what you asked. So there are multiple funny pictures in the internet. So what you ask, what they hear, and what they implement, these are not the same, nearly not the same. And and what sponsor asked you, it's
Right? It can vary widely. Okay, so then that's going to be another important part of the role as business analysis professional is that you are going to provide the input, the knowledge, the details about whatever it is that is going to be prioritized, and that would be your role is to be able to do that well. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that is that is I think we've learned a lot. And as I'm looking at the comments, we've had a lot of folks, some by the way, who are in the healthcare space like you are or thinking about it, who have found today's talk really interesting. So I want to
Thank
thank
you.
you a whole lot, neighbor, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. And just a friendly advice to all analysts: always challenge yourself. Try to learn more, explore more. It will definitely help you in your work too.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, Irina. It's been really lovely to learn about business analysis in the healthcare space. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah. All right. And that is it for today's session. I hope you've learned something. So, if you are thinking about moving into the healthcare space, I think Irina's done such a great job of explaining to you some of the skills that you might need to have. When we see you in 2 weeks from today, we're going to be talking about business analysis in the platform era. What do I mean by platform era? Do you work with tools like Salesforce or SAP or JD Edwards or any of those big platform systems? Well, we've got a guest who is going to talk about business analysis for those platforms. So I hope that you'll join us. We will see you in 2 weeks from today. Thanks. Bye bye.